And so far we have seen the kinematic link. And what is the kinematic pair? Pair is nothing but two links are called as the kinematic pair. See, this is the one link and there is another link. But see, if these two are not combined, okay, then there is no relation existing between these two. So these two should be combined here. So how we need to combine these two? By using the different types of joints here. Okay, so different types of joints. So there are different types of joints. So based on that joint, the relative motion between these two are defined here. Okay, so what is the definition? It is a combination of two links and then relative motion is constrained. Okay, if this is not connected to this, then it can go in any direction it want. But when it is connected to this, then what happens? Its relative motion is constrained. How it is constrained? There are different types of joints here. For example, if I use the revolute joint, then it is only rotate. Instead of that, if I use the slider joint, okay, this is the slider, then what happened? This is a move like this, in this way. Okay, that means it is depending on the joint here. So based on the joint, we can apply the constraint on the movement or the motion, and this constraint or the motion is predictable. Here it is a rotation, here it is the translation, or if it is the specifical, then what type of rotation is possible. These are predictable. Okay, so here the main next important thing is joints, different types of joints here. Okay, so let's summarize the type of pair. So the main classification that I interested here, why? Because based on this we will see a lot of problems. That is a lower pair, and then another one is a higher pair. Okay, so the kinematic pair is called as the lower pair sometimes, and then a higher pair. When will you call the lower pair? Whenever you have the surface contact between the links or at the junction, then it is called as the lower pair. In that case, the degree of freedom is 1 between those two pairs. Okay, and when is the higher pair? Whenever you have point or line contact, then in that case it is called as the higher pair, and the degree of freedom of the higher pair is 2. Okay, so what is the meaning of that? We will see again quickly here. So the example for this lower pair is rotary or revolute or turning or pin joint. So how is this pair? For example, if I take the rotary pair, okay, this is the rotary pair. Here, see here, this is the cylinder I have taken bit inside this. So here generally what happened, it can move in this direction and it also can rotate about this. So to arrest this movement, I will keep some more collars here. Okay, or the restriction here. Okay, when I keep some collar here on this rod, then what happened? No longer it can move like this. The translation is arrested here. So there is only rotation like this. When there is only rotation, then what happened? If you take the this lateral surface of the cylinder from here to here, cylinder means it is a rod. This lateral surface is touching inside of this. So if I draw the the side view, then the side view will be like this. Okay, the side view is like this. Okay, so this is the rod that is rotating here. So this entire surface is touching this. So here, how is the pair here? For example, this is the one link. This is the link, I fix this link. Okay, this is the link 1 and this is the link 2. Why? Because this is a rotating way, with respect to this. Okay, this is the link 2. So otherwise here, if I extend this, otherwise I will build one link like this. Okay, when it is rotating, this is also rotating. Okay, so this is the link 2. So link 1 and link 2 are joined with a rotary joint here. Rotary joint, and if you look at this rotary joint, it will look like this, and generally this rotary joint or a revolute joint or a turning joint or a pin joint. Okay, this is represented like this. Okay, for example, this is the link 1, and then this is the revolute joint like this, and then this is the revolute, this is the link 2. These two are rotated like this. When I fixed this, then what happened? Link 2, for the link 2 only the rotation is possible. That means, see, initially what happened? Link 2, initially it is free. Okay, when it is free on the plane, when what is happening, this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis, and then this is the z-axis. So it can go along the x-axis, it can go along the y-axis, and it can rotate about the z-axis, which is perpendicular to the x and y. Okay, it is rotating. That means it is having the 3 degrees of freedom in a plane. So in a plane, how many degrees of freedom? 3 degrees of freedom. When I attach it to the link 1 by using this rotary or revolute joint, then what happened? The only possible movement for this is rotating about the z axis. It cannot go along the x, it cannot go along the y when I fixed this. Okay, that means because of this joint, okay, it lost 2 degrees of freedom. It lost 2 degrees of freedom, and there is only 1 degree of freedom. Okay, so the number of degrees of freedom here is how much? 1. That means how much restriction they are providing in the plane. This is the planar. Okay, so there are 2 restrictions provided. Okay, 1 degrees of freedom. This is the turning joint, and then even the sliding pair also like that. So sliding pair, so it is simply sliding. So how it is sliding? For example, I take a groove like this, and inside this groove it is sliding like this. Okay, this is the rectangle section I have taken. Okay, this is the rectangle section I have taken. Otherwise, if I draw this like that, okay, now you can visualize this. This is the one, and here this is the groove. This is the groove. In this groove, it can go to and fro direction. Okay, so it cannot rotate because it is a rectangular nature. If it is a circular rod, then it can rotate. Okay, so it is only sliding. So when it is only sliding, then what is the, see, let's assume this is the link 1 and this is the link 2. Link 2 means I joined some link whichever I want for this. I welded this, then it can be extended wherever you want. So this everything is link 2, and how these link 1 and link 2 are constrained here. These two are constrained only in the going in the horizontal direction. Okay, so what is the degree of freedom here? The degree of freedom is only 1, and then restrictions are 2. So that means when and what is the, see here, if I draw this, this is the groove. In this groove, it is going like this. So if you look at the bottom, what is happening? There is the entire surface touching here. Okay, so there is a surface contact. So degree of freedom is only 1, and then restrictions are 2. And in the same way, screw pair. Screw pair means, the best example is even we can take the marker. Okay, here in the on the marker there are no screw, but imagine that there are screw. Otherwise, you take any water bottle. Okay, so what happened? When I am turning this, it is rotating, and as well as the moving along the axis in the screw. In case of a screw, okay, it is for example, okay, here it is screws are like that, and there is a cap on this. When I am turning this cap, then what is happening? It is turning, and as well as climbing. Okay, translation. So how many rotations are possible? For how many movement are possible? 2, turning and translation. Then you may think that the degree of freedom should be 2 instead of 1. But here this turning and as well as the transmission are both they are not independent, but dependent on each other. How it is dependent? For example, if I start here and then if I complete one complete revolution and reach to the same point, okay, then this displacement is called as the pitch of the screw. Okay, that means here, for one complete revolution of the, for example, this is the nut and this is the bolt. Okay, for one complete revolution, pitch amount, it is increased p. Okay, so how much distance it is moved here, that is a 2 pi r, where r is the radius of this particular bolt. Okay, so this is the theta, this is nothing but a screw angle. So here 2 pi r is nothing but a amount of the rotation, and p is the amount of the translation along the axis. Okay, these two are related here, not independent. That is why the degree of freedom is here 1 but not 2. And belt and pulley, this is interesting case. Okay, how belt and pulley become lower pair with slip. See, for example, this is the pulley and this is the belt. I will take some little bit thick belt like this. Okay, so what is happening when it is rotating? If there is a slip, initially we assume that there is no slip. When there is no slip, where exactly the belt is living? Here and then here. Okay, these are the contact points. So when there is no slip, then what happened? Slip means, if this is here at this point, what happened? Point A. Okay, point A is on the pulley and point B on the belt. So if VA equal to VB, then what is the meaning of that? There is no slip here. Okay, that means the belt is not slipping on the pulley. When it is not slipping, then from here to here, this belt also can be considered as an integral part of this pulley. That means it also considered as a pulley here. Okay, then only here it is departing from here, and from here it is departing. And if you cut this belt, it look like this. If you cut the belt here, it look like this, and this portion is lying on the pulley, and this is how can you see? If you cut this and then see for example, so this is the belt. Okay, this is the portion, this edge is this one. Okay, this edge is this one, and that means it is a line. Okay, this is the line. So whenever there is a no slope, so the only portion that is contact with the pulley is this line here, and here also this line. So whenever there is a line or point contact, then it will become the higher pair. Higher pair means the pulley and belt. So that is why here, when the belt and pulley is without slip, then it will be treated under the higher pair. But whereas if the belt and pulley are with slip, when there is a with the slip, then what happens? This pulley, the definition of the kinematic pair, kinematic link. What is the kinematic link? There should be the relative motion between those two. So when there is a slip, that means the difference between velocity of this and then pulley. That means relative motion, from here to here. When there is a relation motion, then I need to take this entire portion as the other link. When I take this entire portion, then a surface will come instead of the line of the belt. Okay. So whenever the surface comes, then it will come to the lower pair. So you remember this point. What is that? The belt and pulley combination, if it is having the slip means slip between the belt and the pulley, then it is treated under the lower pair. Whenever the belt and pulley is not having any slip or without slip, then it is considered under the higher pair. Okay. Sometimes in the examination, the options will be given like this. So which of the following is the higher pair? Okay, which of the higher pair? higher pair. So options are like that. A is a screw, B is sliding, and then C, even in the screw it is a surface, bolt and nut, the entire surface is a the entire surface is touching there. And then here rotary, and then D is belt and pulley, belt and pulley, and here it is not mentioned whether it is a slip or not. So what is the most probable answer here? Only the belt and pulley, because we need to select the higher pair. Why? Because these three are obviously lower pair. Okay, otherwise in the options here, if you have in place of C cam and follower, then what happen? Automatically you need to select C instead of D. Okay, and then coming to the higher pair, so it is always easy to identify which one is higher, which one is lower. You no need to go into the mechanism, and even if you are unable to find out whether it is giving 2 degrees of freedom or 1 degree of freedom, only thing that you need to observe is which one the contact is, either line or a point. That is what you need to identify. Okay, so first one is the cam and follower, and here in this case degrees of freedom is 2. That means how many restrictions are there? There is only one restriction in the degrees of freedom out of 3. The first one is the cam and follower. So how is the diagram? Cam and follower. So for example here this is the cam, okay, and then there is a follower, knife edge follower like this. So here when I am rotating like this one, okay, when I am rotating this, what is the contact between these two? This is the point, contact. Okay, and then a gear in a mesh. So for example this is one gear, and then this is another gear. So what is the point of contact? This is the point only. Okay, and this is also comes under higher pair. And curved profile means, for example, you have some profile like this. Okay, and see, for example, if I take the straight line here, what is the point of contact? Point. Okay, otherwise here also if I take the same type of a curved profile like this, so what is the point of contact between these two? It is a point here. Okay, it is a point here. Otherwise curved profile in contact, that even it is an example of the rolling pair. For example here I will take the rolling pair like this. Rolling pair means this is the fixed one, and then this is the disc. When it is rotating like this, what is the point contact? It is a point here. And how the degree of freedom became 2 here? See, when it is rotating, what is happening? It is going forward and as well as it is rotating. That means, see, this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis, and then this is the z-axis. This is rotating about the z-axis and also going towards the x-axis. That means there is a 2 degrees of freedom here. That is why this the higher pair is having 2 degrees of freedom. And what's about here? For example, if I fixed here this, and then if I am trying to rotate this, it will try to rotate about this. So in this case, what is happening? Even here, what is happening? You may think that when I am rotating the gear here, obviously this also rotate without any other thing. But actually what is happening here at the point of contact, it is not only rotation, okay, it is also sliding is happening between these two. So it is rotation plus sliding, both are happening. That is why the degrees of freedom is 2 here. But even if you don't know this point, like there is a rotation and as well as the sliding is happening here in this case, then how will you find out this? See, how is the point? There is a line contact here. Okay, there is a line contact here in this case. Okay, so how is that line? If I see from the top, how will they look like? They look like this. Okay, they look like this. This is the line contact. For for this. And here it is a point contact. When I am trying to rotate this, it is not only going up, but there is a sliding here. Okay, and in the same way, whenever you identify the higher pair, then without knowing whether really 2 degrees of freedom are possible there or not, you can remember that 2 degrees of freedom is acting there. Okay, and belt and pulley without slip also considered under the higher pair. Okay, so here recognition of these pairs are very much important while calculating the degrees of freedom. Okay, so whenever there is a higher pair, then what happened? The degrees of freedom is 2. That means the number of restrictions it is providing is 1. Whenever there is a lower pair, then the degrees of freedom is 1 and the number of restrictions provided by this is 2. Okay.
And here our next important topic is degrees of freedom of a mechanism. So this is also called as a mobility of the mechanism. In the name itself we have mobility means possible motion. So for example, if you consider any mechanism or any planar or a spatial mechanism, for a given input motion, how many output motions can be possible? How many output motions can be possible for a given input? This input may be 1 or 2 motions. It depends on our requirement or the mechanism or type of the mechanism. So if you know output mechanism, output possible motions, then we can choose that particular mechanism for the appropriate application. So how to find out this? And otherwise, if I consider in the other way, like I want to choose a particular mechanism for the particular application. So how to choose that mechanism? So that is either through the trial and error method. So we construct a mechanism and we'll see whether that is satisfying our required application or not. But that is very cumbersome, and every time we cannot go for that. It takes a lot of time also. But instead, if you have a ready-made formula to calculate any degree of freedom of any mechanism, then it's easy to choose that particular mechanism for the required application. Or same point I would like to explain with an example. For example, we have this slider crank mechanism. So this is the slider crank mechanism, and this will be used in our internal combustion engine. And we know that in an internal combustion engine, this motion, translation motion, should be given to the crank as a rotational movement. So that means if you here, due to fuel burning, this piston will be moved in this direction, so that this will be this output. For example, we are considering this as a input motion, and this rotation is the output motion, and we need to know whether this particular mechanism is only of 1 degree of freedom. So that we know it's only 1 degree of freedom because we have already seen this one. But how to know that one before using in the mission or in the engine? So we need to apply this degrees of freedom of formula for this one, and if it is satisfying that output motion is only having only 1 degree of freedom, then only we go for this type of mechanism. And that is about degrees of freedom. But what is the nature of DOF? But in the same example, we know that for a given input motion, this output is only one motion, that is a rotational motion at the crankshaft. But I said only rotational motion only by experience. But if you start newly this mechanism, if you are a new fellow and you don't know about anything about this mechanism, and you want to confirm whether it's a whether the output motion is a translational or rotational. So this nature of the degree of freedom gives the um, or it distinguishes the degree of freedom is either translational or rotational. So here in this present chapter, most of the mechanisms that we consider are in the plane or planar. So here in the planar, we can easily identify the nature of degree of freedom. But if we consider the same mechanisms in space, then it's very difficult to find out the nature of degree of freedom by using this simple formula that we are going to derive in this session. So in that case, generally people go for screw theory analysis, and they formulate some inverse and direct kinematics, and from that one they segregate some matrices and then find out the eigenvalues, and based on the eigenvalues they will get to know about the degrees of freedom, number of degrees of freedom, and as well as nature of those degrees of freedom. Nature means whether the degree of freedom is a translational motion or a rotational motion. So here, but we don't go in the detail here in this chapter, because our main focus here only on the planar mechanisms. So that's why we need to know degrees of freedom for any mechanism, so that we can use that particular mechanism in a appropriate application. So let's find out a formula for the degrees of freedom, and see in this particular example we need to find out degrees of freedom of this mechanism. But this mechanism again consists of different links. This is the slider, this is the simple simple rod, or we can call it as a link, and this is one more link, and this ground also one more link. Here we have a pin joint, here also pin joint. Pin joint means hinge joint. The hinge joint allows only rotational movement between two links, and here also one hinge joint, and this link is again connected to the slider with a hinge joint. So here, if you can find out these degrees of freedom of the individual links, and if you can formulate the relation between these different degrees of freedom of these different links when these are connected by a hinge joints or some other joints, then that will automatically give the degrees of freedom of the entire mechanism. So what I am trying to say is, instead of directly considering this whole mechanism, I would like to start degrees of freedom of the simple link initially in the space, and then we will move on to the planar or plane. Then finally we try to find out the ultimate formula for the degrees of freedom, and then we would like to apply the same formula for the different mechanisms. And before deriving that particular equation, here I would like to first write the degree of freedom. That's a group. According to Grubler's criteria, degrees of freedom is given as 3 into n minus 1 minus 2 into p1 minus p2. This is in a plane. This is for planar mechanisms. And when I say mechanisms, that means one of the links is fixed one. Here n refers to the n equal to number of links in a mechanism. N is the number of links in a mechanism, and what is the p1 and what is the p2. So we will define that one, and don't remember, or no need to buy. We would derive this particular equation by considering set of examples. First I will consider a body in space or three-dimensional coordinates system. This is a body, and at the center of the body, this is the y-axis, and this is x-axis, and this is z-axis. We always follow this convention. This is a right hand thumb rule. So for example, my right hand is going from x to y axis. So x to y axis, if I going from x to y axis, this thumb indicates the z axis. But if you consider x here and y here, then automatically z go in the downward direction. So we always stick to this right hand thumb rule. And if I consider a body like this and without constraint or without attaching any this body to anything, this body can translate in the in this direction along the y axis, and it also can translate along the x axis freely without any hindrance or no restriction, and it also can translate along the z axis, and the same body can rotate along the y axis about the y axis, and the same body can rotate about the x axis and also about z axis. So can we say that the body has a 3 translation plus 3 rotations? So that means altogether it has a 6 movements. So can we say that this body has 6 degrees of freedom? Why? Because degrees of freedom is nothing but possible movement of the body, whether it's a translation or a rotational. Here 3 translation and 3 rotational. So altogether it possesses 6 degrees of freedom. This is in the space. That means if you consider 3 degrees or 3 coordinate system, but I would like to consider the same body in a plane. So what happens if I consider in a plane? So this is the plane x and y. So this is the body. So this is some sub-rigid body, and this can translate along the x-axis even in this direction or in this direction without any constraint, and this can translate along the y-axis. So it has 2 translation motion, because here z-axis is missing, it cannot translate or go out of the plane. And if I put my finger at this point O, and if I rotate this body like this, it can also rotate along the axis that is coming out of the plane. So it got 1 rotation also. So when you consider the same body in the planar or plane, then planar coordinates are in a plane, then it has only 2 translation and 1 rotation. So altogether its degree of freedom is 3. And how many constraints it got imposed on this one compared to the space? So 3 constraints. So 1 constraint in the translation motion and 2 constraints in the rotation. So there are 3 degrees of freedom lost when you shift your coordinate system from the space to the plane. So, and in most of the mechanism that we are going to deal in this chapter are planar. So we would like to derive these degrees of freedom for the planar mechanisms. So, and before going into the derivation here, I would like to consider some other types of links and the possible degrees of freedom and a constraint between those links. In the first one we have a slab or a plane, and this is a sphere, and these coordinates are like this, and this is the origin at the center of the sphere. The sphere can travel along the x-axis and also along the y-axis, but it cannot travel z-axis. It can only go upward direction, but there is a restriction when it is try to go in the downward direction of the z-axis. So here it has only 2 translations, one is along the x-axis and another along the y-axis, and it can rotate about x-axis and then y-axis and then z-axis. So for example, if I consider this as the sphere, so it can rotate like this and it can rotate like this, okay, and it can rotate like this, and it can rotate like this also, about this one. So it has 3 rotations. It has 3 rotations. So altogether, how many degrees of freedom does this sphere possess? So that is a 5 degrees of freedom, and there is only one constraint, that is a translational constraint in the direction of z-axis. And if you consider this example again, we have a sphere inside a hollow cylinder. So this we have a sphere inside a hollow cylinder, and we would like to find out how many degrees of freedom that this sphere inscribed in a this sphere can translate only along the x-axis, because this is a hollow one. It can travel here and in this direction, but it cannot travel in the y-axis and the z-axis. So it has only one translation, and this sphere again can rotate about x-axis, y-axis and z-axis, because there is no constraint, or this sphere is not attached to anything. So it is like a globe, so it can rotate in any direction, because that rotation is not constrained. So again we have 3 rotations. So total degrees of freedom of the sphere inside the cylinder is 4 degrees of freedom, and there are 2 constraints in a translation motion along the y and z axis. And again here in the third case we have a cylinder placed on a plane. So again the cylinder can move along the x-axis and also along the y-axis. It can go like this or like this, but it cannot go along the z-axis. In the negative z-axis direction it cannot go. So only 2 translations are possible, and rotations. So it can rotate about x. This is the cylinder. If you consider this is the cylinder and this is the x-axis, it can rotate like this, it can rotate like this, and this is x-axis and this is the y-axis, this is the y-axis. So about y-axis, can it rotate? No, it cannot rotate, because this is the y-axis and it has to rotate like this, but we have a plane here, so plane is opposing that one. And this is the z-axis and this is the z-axis, and it can rotate like this about the z-axis. So it has only 2 rotations, 2 translation and 2 rotations. So total degree of freedom is 4. And here we have, in this case, this is the sphere, this is the sphere, and the sphere is locked inside a groove. For example, this is a groove, this is in 2D, but you imagine in a 3D. This is a groove, and inside we have inside the groove we have a sphere like this inside the groove, and the opening of the groove is such a way that it should be less than the diameter of the sphere. If the opening is more than diameter of the sphere, then sphere will come out. So that means this groove is holding this one, but the sphere is not attached, but it cannot come out of this one. That means it cannot translate in any of these axes. So it cannot translate in x-axis, y-axis or z-axis, but it can rotate about the x-axis, y-axis, z-axis, because this sphere is not attached or not fixed to this groove. So it can rotate. It can rotate about x, y and z-axis. So here 0 translation plus 3 rotations. And if we have, in any mechanism, if we have this type of arrangement, then that can be called as a ball and socket joint. This sphere is a ball and this groove is called as a socket. So ball and socket joint. In our human body we have so many pairs of this ball and socket joint. For example, our shoulder is best example. This is the shoulder one, and this is the hand. This is the hand and this is the ball. It looks like a sphere, right? And this is the groove or socket. That is our main body. This is our main body, and at the end of this one we have groove like structure, and hand is sphere like structure. So here this translation is not possible, but only 3 rotations. How these 3 rotations? For example, one axis is like this, and one axis is along this one, and one axis is coming out of the plane. So for example, if I consider one axis along the hand of this one, so what is the rotation of this hand along about this axis? That should be like this, we can make rotation like this, right, about this axis. And if I consider axis like this, one more axis like this, so what is the rotation of this hand about this axis? That is like this. This is the axis, and I am making rotation like this. And another axis, third axis, is along this one. For example, if I consider the third axis along my body like this, then I need to rotate my hand in this direction. So we have 3 rotations here. So that's how our shoulder joint works. In this example, we have a cylinder inside a hollow cylinder. So this cylinder can move in this direction along the x-axis, that is, but it cannot translate in either in y-axis or z-axis. Here we have only one translation motion, and it can rotate about the x-axis also, because for example, this is the x-axis and I can rotate like this one. So here we have one translation and one rotation when you have a cylinder inside a hollow cylinder. And in this case, this is the same one, but here we kept one collar here. So why we kept this collar? So that it will, if you keep this collar, it will prevent this translation along the x-axis. So here translation is arrested, and we have only one rotation about the x-axis. So here only one translation and one rotation and 0 translations. And in this case, this is a prismatic bar, and this can translate only along the y-axis, and it cannot rotate about the y-axis because this is not a circle, so it cannot rotate this one. So here we have 0 rotation and 1 translation.